Hi, good morning, everyone, or good afternoon, depending on where you are, and welcome on this event on the JCM. So my name is Stefano De Clara, and I'm Director of International Policy at IETA. And it's a pleasure to host this event on the joint crediting mechanism jointly organized by the Ministry of Environment of Japan, Mitsubishi UFJ, the Asian Development Bank, and IGES, the Institute for Global Environmental Strategies. As you might know, this event is hosted under the IETA ICAP Carbon Markets Pavilion, which is running over 2 days. So the first day of the pavilion took place yesterday, and the second day is taking place today. So this event specifically will look at the JCM, at the Joint Crediting Mechanism under Article 6 of the Paris Agreement, and it will look more specifically at the relationship between the JCM and a couple of really important topics, such as ambition raising and obtaining higher ambition under Article 6 of the Paris Agreement. And it will also look at the links between Article 6, the JCM, and Sustainable Development Goals. As you might know, IETA has a long-standing partnership with Mitsubishi UFJ and also with the Ministry of Environment of Japan to look at the JCM and to promote knowledge sharing about this mechanism. And we think this is increasingly important as we get close to COP26, when hopefully we will have the adoption of rules for Article 6. The JCM can be seen as a prime example of Article 6 piloting. It has already a really extensive and long experience in implementation. And it really mirrors what could happen under Article 6.2 of the Paris Agreement. So in a way, looking at how the JCM was developed, at how it functions, and how it's operating, and how it's been implemented in different host countries, can really give us a glimpse in the future of international cooperation under Article 6. And by looking at specific issues and at how they were addressed and implemented in the JCM, which includes the couple of issues that we will look at today, can also be really useful to inform the Article 6 negotiations and provide examples of how some of the open issues in the negotiations and some of the design choices for Article 6 that are still being discussed could be conformed and could be developed. So I think it's always a really useful exercise to look at what are the experiences gained under the JCM, and this is how we intend to spend the next 60 minutes or so. So we did have the pleasure of being able to put together an excellent panel. We have a set of speakers that will delve into different aspects of the JCM, from a broad overview for those of you that are not too familiar with the mechanism, to more specific examples of how the JCM is linked, for example, to sustainable development, and also to examples of how the JCM is being implemented in specific countries. So I'll be handing the floor really quickly to the panelists for their presentations. Before I do that, I just want to do a couple of notes of housekeeping. So obviously, please keep your microphone and your camera off throughout the meeting to avoid any background noise. And also, please feel free to use the chat function of the webinar, and also the question function of the webinar, to send any question you might have, any comment you might have throughout the meeting, and we will try to address as many questions and as many comments as we can after the presentations as part of the panel discussion and Q&A if time will allow it. Having said that, I want to give the floor to Tats from Mitsubishi UFJ, who will moderate the presentations and will also moderate the Q&A at the end of the initial presentations. So Tats, the floor is yours. Tats, you might be on mute if you're trying to speak.
Thank you, Stefano. Thanks for the nice opening remarks. My name is Tats Hemi from Mitsubishi UFJ Research and Consulting. And I will be moderating this event. And first of all, thank you. Can you hear me?
It breaks up a little bit, at least for me. Try to go again, maybe.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yeah. Now it's much better.
Can you hear now? Yeah, much better. Okay, sorry. Yes, my name is Hemi from Mitsubishi UFJ Research and Consulting, and I will be moderating this session today. And thank you for participating in this event. And in the interest of time, I'll just introduce speakers for the next presentation. So next will be introduction to the whole event, and this will be given by Ms. Kazuko Yamaguchi from Mitsubishi UFJ Research and Consulting, the same company, and she is a member of the JCM Secretariat and has been involved in the JCM since its inception. And her presentation gives overall introduction of today's event and key issues to be discussed thereafter. So without further ado, let us invite her to present her presentation. Ms. Yamaguchi, the floor is yours.
Thank you for introducing me, Tats. Good morning or good evening, everyone. My name is Kazuko Yamaguchi from Mitsubishi UFJ Research and Consulting, one of the organizers of this event. I'd like to briefly introduce the objectives and background of this event. Next slide, please. While governments and businesses around the world take actions to respond to and recover from the COVID-19 crisis, it is a critical moment for the world to build back better, to redesign our economies and societies to become more sustainable, resilient, and inclusive. In order to build back better, addressing climate change continues to be important, and Article 6 of the Paris Agreement is an important tool for raising ambition as well as promoting sustainable development. Detailed rules of Article 6 are still being negotiated. However, with a good design and cooperation between countries and other stakeholders, we can make a greater impact on both climate change and sustainable development. The Joint Crediting Mechanism, JCM, is an existing bilateral market mechanism and recognized as one of the Article 6 activities. The achievement by and lessons learned from the JCM so far could give us insight and suggestions for the Article 6 mechanisms and other related activities. Based on these backgrounds, this event aims at providing the latest status of the JCM, disseminating the information related to the Article 6 activities and contribution to sustainable development, and finally, encouraging more projects participants to incorporate sustainable development core benefit. Next slide, please. I'd like to touch upon Article 6, As you may know, Article 6 prescribes the use of market mechanisms and voluntary cooperation in the implementation of NDCs under Article 6 is to allow for higher ambition in climate actions and to promote sustainable development and environmental integrity. Also, Article 6.2 prescribes that parties to the Paris Agreement engaging in cooperative approaches shall promote sustainable development. The majority of so-called Paris Rule Book to operationalize the Paris Agreement was adopted in 2018. However, detailed rules for Article 6, including guidance on cooperative approaches, is still being negotiated and expected to be adopted in CMA next year. Next slide, please. As I said, detailed rules for Article 6 haven't adopted yet. However, some activities for implementation of Article 6 are ongoing in the world, and one of them is the Joint Crediting Mechanism, JCM. The JCM is a bilateral market mechanism established between Japan and 17 countries. It promotes leading low carbon technologies and implementation of mitigation actions, and part of the emission reductions achieved by them are used to achieve Japan's emission reduction target. The latest updates of the JCM will be introduced by Ms. Uga from Ministry of the Environment Japan in the next presentation. As to the relationship between sustainable development and the JCM, one of the purposes of the JCM is to contribute to sustainable development, and in addition to that, guidelines, especially for sustainable development, are adopted in the JCM between Japan and Indonesia and Japan and Mongolia. Experiences on the contribution to sustainable development through the JCM and the lessons learned from them will be introduced by speakers in the following presentations. That's all for my brief introduction of this event. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Yamaguchi. My laptop is having a difficulty in connecting go to meeting, so I'll just use her laptop. So I'd like to move on to the next presentation from Ms. Maiko Uga. She represents Ministry of the Environment, Japan, and the ministry is one of the main Japanese ministries involved in the JCM. And she has been involved in designing and operationalizing of the JCM to advance sustainable development, as well as involved in Article 6 negotiations. And she'll be briefing us with the ladest update of the JCM and its contribution to the sustainable development and gender issues, and so on. So without further ado, Ms. Uga, please, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you for your introduction. I hope everyone can hear me. And so good evening, afternoon, morning, everyone. And I'm Michael from the Ministry of the Environment, Japan. And today I'd like to briefly talk about the JCM. And so we are still in the midst of the COVID-19 crisis, and uncertainty remains in the future. But this pandemic is not the only crisis that humanity is facing now. And climate change is the other issue that we require us to take immediate action, collective action. So now I like to move on to the next slide. So Ms. Yamaguchi briefly explained about the importance of the sustainable development in the Article 6. So the SD is embedded in the Article 6, and we need it's like a prerequisite to do the Article 6 activity. So we government of Japan, we promote climate action as well as the sustainable development through this Paris Agreement. So before I'm going into the JCM, I'd like to briefly introduce about the JCM in the context of the Japan's climate policy and measures. And so we have a master plan for the climate policy, and which is a cabinet plan, which is called a Plan for Global Warming Countermeasures, and which is a cabinet decision from 2016, and which is based on the act on promotion of global warming countermeasures. So this master plan states the midterm target and long-term goals. And for the midterm target, it's a 26% reduction by fiscal year 2030 compared to the fiscal year 2013. And we also have the long-term target as a reduction by 80% by 2050. As you may aware, recently, Prime Minister Suga declared that by 2050, Japan will aim to reduce greenhouse gas emission to net zero and trying to decarbonize our society. So actually now we are trying to do the raising our ambitions. So now going back to the master plan, and so this also it same slide, sorry. So it's talk about the domestic measures and also the international cooperation, which include the joint credit mechanism. And so apart from this 26% target, the government try to reduce 50 to 100 million tons of CO2 through the government JCM program. So it's our commitment to do for the global climate measures, and also probably you may wonder where the opportunities for the private sector. So in the master plan, they also talk about the GHG emission accounting, reporting, and disclosure program for the Japanese private sector, and which mandates the entity above a specific threshold to calculate and report their emissions, and with the government publicly disclose the collected data to encourage them to invest and reflect their actions. And also under this program, we allow them to use domestic and international certified emission reductions, which include the JCM. So this is how the private sector can use JCM credit. Can we go to the next slide? So this is the same diagram Mr. Yamaguchi mentioned, so I'm not going to the detail, but through the JCM, we tried not just try to get the credit, but we're trying to promote the advanced low carbon or zero emission technologies in our partner countries, and we also evaluate our contributions through the project, and also contributing to the ultimate objective, the UN CCC, by facilitating the global actions. And so when we signed the bilateral document with partner countries, we set up the joint committee between countries, and we jointly operate this JCM. Can we go to next? So this is a snapshot of the JCM progress, and we started in 2013, and now we have 70 partner countries, and they are from Asia, Middle East, Africa, and Latin America, so all over the world. And we already have more than 180 projects in the pipeline. And from some of those pipeline projects already started issuing credits. And we also already have the many registered projects and MLRV methodology for private sector to use. And all these information are made on the public, and those information is accessible from this JCM official website. And I like to share some of our great photos, and the top I guess left is a heat recovery cement project in Indonesia, by far the largest ice project in terms of emission reductions. And recently we started operating the floating solar power plant in Thailand. Please, next slide. So to promote the JCM, we have a financial program, and we Ministry of the Environment Japan has this model project and we financially support projects that can be later registered the JCM project. So pretty much government of Japan provides some financial support for the international consortium, which consists of Japanese companies and company from partner countries, and they implement projects, and they conduct MRV, and at the end we expect them to deliver the JCM credits, and through, for this project, we expect at least half of the credit will be delivered to the government of Japan. And we also have a financial support through ADB, and also we have a F-gas deconstruction program. And today we have Mr. Fuji from ADB, and he's going to explain about their trust fund. And can we go to next? So, the under Article 6, the raising ambition is very important, and this is JCM experience and can contribute to the Article 6 implementation. And one is our the concept of this conservative emission reduction calculation. So basically, we set the conservative emission reduction scenario, which is lower than the baseline scenarios under the CDM. And so the difference between the baseline scenario and the conservative scenario, this goes to the net emission reduction toward the partner country who are actually implementing the project. And so also the credits are issued from the difference between the reference and project emissions, and we share the issued credit with partner countries' government, maybe private sector, and also the company and government from Japan. So this is JCM's concept, and also the contribution to the NDC of both Japan and partner countries. And can we go to next? So we also highly value the sustainable development through the JCM. And as you may aware, the Agenda 2030 was established the same year as the Paris Agreement was established. And so basically, sustainable development cannot achieve without the climate mitigation action and vice versa. So we'll try to contribute to the not only the emission reduction, but also the sustainable development of partner countries. So that so recently with commissioned work to the IGES, we created this report publication, and probably Miss Tsukui will explain more about in her presentation. And also, we recently introduced a gender guideline for the JCM for the model project. So through these activity, we'll try to have more impact by the JCM. And our ministry is not like eight agencies, so we're not like a perfect and do not have that many years of experience. But we have a collaboration with the international organization such as ADB, and they are the longest partner under the JCM, and actually implementing their project with the trust fund. And we also have a collaboration with World Bank and and also recently UNIDO, and hopefully we can get a higher impact with these collaborations. And could you go to next? These are some of the assessment of the JCM project and what kind of target we have contributed through the JCM. And so these mitigation project can have also the co-benefits, and in the future we would like to have more projects like these. And thank you, and that's all from me. And I'd like to pass on to the next presenter. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Uga, for your presentation. It was a nice introductory to the next presenter, who is the Ms. Tsukui from IGES. Most of us, many of us already know about the IGES, but IGES has been active in conducting researches on the JCM and its contribution to SDGs. So in her presentation, she will touch upon analysis of the JCM and the SDGs linkage. Ms. Tsukui, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, and hope you can hear me. Okay. And good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. My name is Akibi Tsukui, and a researcher from the Institute for Global Environmental Strategies, IGES. And today, I would like to talk about the linkages between the JCM and SDGs. The next slide, please. So this is the outline of my presentation, which is divided into 3 parts. And firstly, I'll quickly touch upon the relationship between the climate change and SDGs. And secondly, I'll explain key findings from our series of publications, JCM contributions to SDGs. And finally, I'll share lessons learned from our analysis. So for the next slide, the Agenda 2030 and the Paris Agreement is a complementary framework for accelerating action and achieving ambitious sustainable development objectives. So in this context, JCM is a tool and framework for strengthening global partnership which enables countries and regions to promote actions towards climate change and SDGs. Next slide, please. So as Ms. Uga already explained and shared, the Ministry of Environment Japan and IGS published a series of reports called JCM Contribution to SDGs. And for the first publication, we developed the JCM unique qualitative and quantitative indicators and conducted an assessment of the JCM scheme itself and registered JCM projects by using these indicators. And for the second volume, it listed up JCM indicators, and it can be utilized as a tool for analyzing JCM projects and understanding how the projects contribute to SDG goals and targets. And these publications can be downloaded through the IGS website. So from the next page, I'll explain 3 key findings of these publications. So the first key finding is that the JCM can contribute to multiple goals and targets, not only energy, environmental, and economic goals, but also the social dimension of SDGs. So in total, as you can see on the slide, the JCM can contribute to 12 goals out of 17 goals. Next slide, please. So the second key finding is that installing different technologies and implementing projects in different sectors can expand the JCM's contribution to various goals and targets. So developing a project through the JCM can contribute to the common targets of the SDGs. And these are the goals 4, 7, 9, 12, and 13, 17, as presented in the left green box. And in addition to the common targets, individual JCM project has impacts on additional goals and targets, depending on the types of technology and the type of sector where the technology is installed. For example, the one project in Indonesia introducing waste paper processing system into a packaging paper factory. This project can contribute to target 7.3, reducing energy consumption, and 12.2, recycling resources, and 12.5, recycling waste, in addition to the common targets. For the next slide, yes, for the third message and key finding is that the JCM has the potential to expand the contribution to SDGs. And we expect that the needs for the JCM project in the partner countries will increase. So from the SDG perspective, JCM projects have a lot of potentials and can contribute to solving environmental problems and social issues. And for example, the demand for solar irrigation system is increasing in the partner countries. A solar irrigation system can increase the farmer's income and productivity and improve water quality. And waste treatment is also crucial for public health. So wastewater treatment is also crucial for public health, and the transfer of wastewater treatment technology and capacity building is essential for developing sustainable infrastructure in sustainable cities. And besides this, the solid waste and plastic waste is another issue that we need to address. The proper management of waste will reduce the release of waste into the water and soil, and it will also be able to protect marine ecosystems and help to solve issues of plastic pollution in the oceans. For the last page of my presentation, I'll share the lessons learned from our activities, in particular in line with Article 6. And as Ms. Yamaguchi already mentioned, since 2013, JCM has laid out sustainable development as one of the core concepts. So JCM has been addressing sustainable development in various ways. For instance, every project implemented under the JCM is required to conduct a local stakeholder consultation and report the result of consultation on the project design document. And another example is Mongolia and Indonesia adopted the guidelines for sustainable development. So assessment and monitoring of the sustainable development have been conducted in these two countries. The results of our analysis are successfully in broadening the discussion on sustainable development to a variety of stakeholders. For example, the reports have enhanced understanding of interlinkage between the JCM and SDGs in the partner countries, and it also have got wider attention from different stakeholders in the partner countries. And for the JCM, the private sector participation and engagement is also crucial since the JCM project operates among private sector. So our activities increased awareness of JCM project participants on the SDGs. The last time we organized a JCM SDGs webinar in Japan, we have many audience from private sectors, and some of them are from JCM counterpart divisions. For example, energy or technology department. But the majority of participants are actually from sustainable development or CSR department. So we clearly see that the JCM starts gaining extensive attention from different stakeholders. The most challenging part of addressing SDGs under the JCM in line with the Article 6 is a lack of guidance, which is probably the same as other mechanisms operated under the Article 6. And the latest rulebook on Article 6.2 does not specify sustainable development. So in this situation, we learned that it is important to identify and share best practices and disseminate information and activities related to sustainable development to broader community. And we are actually required by private sectors to share more cases. The companies can learn from good practices and use a similar approach to their project. And we can also see that some companies integrate SDG activities under the JCM with their business strategies. And it is always important to visualize our activities to international community. And the next slide, please. This is the output image of our case study analysis. And we are trying to present how the project contribute to SDG goals and target. So we are going to make more case studies and disseminate this information to broader community. That's all from my side, and thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ms. Takui. Okay, in the interest of time, I'd like to move on to the next presentation by ADB representative, Mr. Fujii. ADB, as you know, operates Article 6 support facility and Japan Fund for the JCM. So, Mr. Fujii, the floor is yours.
Can you hear me? Thank you for Hemi-san. My name is Shintaro Fujii from ADB. It's my pleasure to be here today. Birender Dugar was supposed to present today, but unfortunately he cannot join because of poor internet connectivity due to ongoing typhoon in Philippines. So let me present on behalf of him. So let's get started. So yes, so I would like to speak about ADB's activities on Article 6 and JCM. My presentation comprises 5 parts. First, ADB's Strategy 2030, ADB's Carbon Market Program, the Japan Fund for the Joint Crediting Mechanism, thought leadership on the JCM, introducing some our knowledge products, and finally, role of MDBs in promoting sustainable development. So first, ADB published ADB's Strategy 2030 in 2018, which is ADB's long-term corporate strategy. Strategy 2030 sets out 7 operational priorities. And priority 3, this green box, highlights tackling climate change, building climate and disaster resilience, and enhancing environmental sustainability, and established 2 targets. First, climate finance from ADB's own resources will reach $80 billion cumulatively from 2019 to 2030. And the second target is at least 75% of a number of ADB committed operations support climate change mitigation and adaptation by 2030. So we believe these areas remain highly relevant, if not more so, even as we strive to reopen economies affected by COVID-19. ADB has built a strong institutional history of being involved in carbon markets since 1999. The carbon market program was designed to address key financing barriers to the development of emission reduction projects by providing upfront carbon finance while simultaneously building essential carbon market technical capacity. Our carbon market program includes Article 6 support facility and Japan Fund for Joint Crediting Mechanism, JFJCM, which I will mention later. Article 6 support facility, A6SF, is currently supporting 7 ADB's developing member countries, Bhutan, Indonesia, Mongolia, Pakistan, Philippines, Thailand, and Vietnam, addressing their varying needs by providing technical capacity building and policy development support to enhance their preparedness in post-2020 carbon markets. This facility's support includes strengthening developing member countries' systems and infrastructure for robust accounting of mitigation outcomes and facilitating on-the-ground experience with new generation of carbon markets through the design and implementation of Article 6 pilot mitigation actions. Through this facility, ADB also encourages innovation in the development of mitigation actions and enhances DMC's ability to contribute to international negotiations on Article 6. Next, Japan Fund for the Joint Crediting Mechanism, JFJCM, was established in 2014 as one of ADB's trust funds and contributed by the government of Japan. JFJCM provides grant for adoption of advanced low carbon technologies in ADB financed projects that use JCM. JCM eligible countries are 11 countries of ADB developing member countries out of 17 JCM partner countries. The JCM have 6 approved projects. Supported technologies include battery system, energy management system, energy efficient wastewater treatment system, energy efficient transmission lines, solar PV, energy efficient building, and waste energy plant. This shows the latest approved project among the 6 projects. Greater Mare Waste to Energy Project in Maldives. JFGCM is supporting the introduction of the waste to energy incineration plant in this project. And this project is expected to bring about much benefits, including public health, climate change mitigation, energy security, and ocean health. ADB has produced 2 knowledge products in 2016 to support the implementation of the JCM. As we transition to the implementation of Paris Agreement, we have published a new knowledge product in 2019 on drawing lessons from the JCM that can be used for post-2020 bilateral cooperation, specifically under Article 6.2 of Paris Agreement. This knowledge product in 2019 argues that the JCM is the only existing example of a project-based international cooperative approach and clearest example of a bilateral collaboration, and therefore provides a valuable contribution to the understanding of how Article 6.2 may work. This shows a role of MDBs in promoting sustainable development. In 2016, MDBs provided a joint statement to redouble efforts to scale up financing for development as well as the capacity to achieve the SDGs by leveraging, mobilizing, and catalyzing resources at all levels. Also, promoting sustainable development is at the heart of Paris Agreement as it responds to SDG 13. In 2018, MDBs have announced a joint framework to align their activities with the goals of the Paris Agreement. So next, let me talk about what ADB had done in promoting sustainable development for in mitigation actions. The ADB's Future Carbon Fund, XGF, is a good example. XGF provides financial support for CDM projects by purchasing post-2012 CERs and is supporting 34 CDM projects in 11 developing member countries. As the co-benefits being delivered by the XGF portfolio projects were assessed, it turns out that the XGF is providing a broad set of co-benefits to the local communities and beyond. Key lesson learned is that project design is critical. If projects are properly designed, sustainable development co-benefits can be brought about. This is detailed analysis on co-benefits by XGF. XGF projects are delivering positive impact to more than 10.5 million people across Asia and the Pacific, and contribute to 16 of 17 SDGs. So in conclusion, ADB will continue to promote its carbon market program, including JXGCM, taking into account core benefits for sustainable development. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Mr. Fuji. We're running a little behind the time, and okay, so there was a question from the audience to Ms. Uga. So the question was about, when do you expect JCM transfer to be reflected in corresponding adjustment for the first time? Will there be a requirement that the host country and Japan performs the corresponding adjustment in the same year?
Thank you for the questions. And so the corresponding adjustment, right now, internally, we are developing the document so that we can actually implement the corresponding adjustment. And but we're not sure when actually like adjusted, because also, yes, because we haven't decided. Well, the details are still negotiated, so we will follow the rules, and also we'll discuss with the partner countries, because the adjustment is actually done by both parties. So sorry, yeah, that's all I can answer at this moment. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, I was told from the organizer that we're out of time, and we need to close the session. We're very sorry about this, but we advise you to directly connect to the panelists and speakers for your own questions, and presentations, and recording will be made available on the website later. So Stefano, do you have the last word for the presentation? I mean the event?
I just wanted to thank all the panelists and presenters for the excellent presentations. And as you point out, that we will make everything available on the website, and we will of course have future opportunities to keep discussing these topics. So again, thank you all for joining, and I hope you found it useful. And we'll be in touch soon. If you have specific questions, don't hesitate to get in touch, and we'll put you in contact with the speakers. Thank you all for joining, and we'll talk soon. Bye.